Baku welcomed us back with the most chaotic qualifying session of all time and McLaren's worst Grand Prix of the season. Welcome back to Motorsport 101. And in a 2023 throwback, Max Verstappen beats the field over his knee again. Just what we all wanted to see, right? Welcome to episode 617 of Motorsport 101. I'm your friendly neighborhood host, Dre Harrison. Glad you could join us. And, whoo boy, did the racing gods choose chaos on Saturday, mind you. Maybe not so much on Sunday. We don't normally fully cover qualifying sessions here on Motorsport 101. It's normally just a setup to talk about the rest of the pod, but Baku left us with no choice. One of the craziest qualifying sessions you will ever see in your life. I don't know how F1 got it down to 8 minutes on YouTube, but here we are, especially given it had rain and 6 red flags. 6. You thought Brazil last year was bad. We'll talk about some of that. We'll talk about Oscar Piastri's nightmare weekend and somehow how Lando Norris failed to really punish him. We'll get into that soon as well. Max Verstappen winning his 4th Grand Prix of the year. And hang on a minute. He's 69 points back with 7 rounds to go. He couldn't, could he? Surely not.
Could he?
We'll have to talk about that as well, and a bunch of other stuff to do with the Grand Prix, including Carlos Sainz on a podium. Yeah, that was a real thing that happened this weekend in a Williams. But to talk us through his experience recently at IMSA this past weekend, because he was over there for the Battle of the Bricks, it's RJ O'Connell. How's it going, man?
That's right. We were all bricked up this weekend at the Battle of Bricks at Indianapolis. I gotta say, very wild finish to a sit-sour race that was otherwise pretty much in control by the Whelen Cadillac Action Express team. I gotta admit, is definitely experience being down for the grid walk. I'm not saying that it was congested down there, but I've seen crowd crushes that had better crowd control. Otherwise, it's fun to be back at Indianapolis, and I'll be there in a month for the Indy 8 Hour because I can't be at Suzuka, but I can certainly be at the Indianapolis 8 Hours. Oh, and in between, there's Petit Le Mans, the last race of the IMSA season. Also very exciting, and apparently friends of the show are going to be there, but not the ones you might be thinking.
Fun Indy, I'm sure we'll get plenty of stories for that. Who's racing in the Indianapolis 8 Hour then? I didn't know there was another endurance race going on between now and the end of the year.
Yeah, it's the last race of the Intercontinental GT Challenge. It's the last race of GT World Challenge America. Some guy that used to ride bikes for a while might be turning up for that event. Who's to say? Oh, and I also got to see Chris close on a house, but the whole time it looked like he had lost the house. Because the way he was reacting, right? Because this happened during the middle of dinner. It's just like, he told me, yeah, we're closing on the house and everything. And that's great. But it sounded like he just lost all of his money on a parlay.
That makes total sense and also no sense at the exact same time when it comes to the whole small matter of closing a house. As one does.
Yeah, well, your facial expressions give off like, well, now we don't have a house at all. You know, that kind of worries me a bit. Congrats, Chris, on the house. And congrats, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and another successful autumn of sports car racing to come.
Yeah, I do. It reminds me a lot of that video that went semi-viral during the NFL this weekend when the guy had big money on the Rams plus 3.5 against the Eagles, only for the Eagles to win with a last-second blocked field goal, which would have won it for the Rams, ended up icing the game for the Eagles on the final play. And the last words were, I think I've just given up on football, which sounds a lot like Krista Hardy when he's got a big parlay on, bless his heart.
Which sounds a lot like if you're a New York Giants fan right this second. If you are a Miami Dolphins fan right this second, you've given up on football.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all at this rate. Right, before we get into the nitty-gritty of the actual Azerbaijan Grand Prix itself, here's some places you can find us as ever. We're on youtube.com/motorsport101. We're on facebook.com/motorsport101. We're on Twitter and motorsport_101. If you want to follow us on Blue Sky, you can at Dre Harrison and RJ O'Connell at bsky.social. Cam is not here, sadly. He's got the bad case of the Rona. Hopefully he'll be back next week. Get well soon, big fella, and enjoy the pizza, because the man apparently needs some serotonin in his life, which is more than understandable given it's COVID. Get well soon, big fella. I know you're listening in. In the meantime as well, you can also check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/motorsport101. If you've been blocked by the recent AI connectivity problems, sorry about that. Again, all our written articles will be on Patreon as well as motorsport101.com for free in the midst of the downtime. Don't forget that. You can also back us at the $5 tier. It's where you can listen to all of our stuff early as ever. You can upgrade to the $10 tier to listen to this episode live as they're being recorded, as Kira, as Raptor, and Jason are doing so right now. Thank you very much for listening in. I'll have to catch you guys soon. All the details and more on our website, motorsport101.com, where we've had a full written review of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, as well as the complete 2025 IndyCar season review written by yours truly. Check it out if you haven't already. It's a fun three-parter, and our podcast version will definitely be out next week. I've been teasing it for a little while now. It is absolutely going to be next week.
I've been anticipating to be on it and then worried if I was going to have to miss it, and then I was like preparing for it and everything.
You've got an extra week.
Get to this IndyCar. Yeah, we're going to get to this IndyCar season review, we promise. The impossible season.
Yeah, it's next week. I promise it'll definitely be next week. That is a rest assured that will happen. So check that out when the time comes. Right, without further ado, let's get into... Oh, before we go as well, Instagram, Motorsport101 Pod, and TikTok, M101_podcast. Don't forget those two. If you want to listen to video highlights of the show, you can check us out over there as well. Right, without further ado, let's get into the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I've got to shut this door.
So, Dre, you mentioned it. We don't often start with a deep dive into qualifying on this podcast. Not anymore, but, I mean, we got to talk about the fact that we had 6 red flags over Georgia, over Texas, over Baku, across a 118-minute qualifying session, which wasn't supposed to go 118 minutes. That's not all track time back to front. No, that includes all the red flags for Alex Albon, Nico Hulkenberg, Franco Colapinto, Ollie Bearman, Charles Leclerc, and no less the championship leader, Oscar Piastri, all crashing to bring out a red over the course of Saturday. And through the chaos, who else but Max Verstappen scored a last gas pole position, narrowly beating Carlos Sainz, who had the best of the conditions for... Oh yeah, and we mentioned it rained for Q2. Before Q2, I should say. Did we mention that at the time of the last red flag, it looked like Carlos Sainz was going to take provisional pole?
Yeah, it was the very last run from Max that finally dethroned Carlos, because Carlos had the best of the conditions. The track was still basically dry when he set his first lap, and that was briefly before Charles Leclerc put it in the wall to start Q3. Just to quickly review the 6 red flags in general. Alex Albon hit the inside curb on turn 1. I've never seen someone do that before. That's a new one. Nico Hulkenberg went off the escape road at turn 4, tried to recover it, but hit the outside wall, was able to get it going again, but there was a red flag because of the debris and the fact that he was slow to get out of the escape road, so they had to red flag it. F1's always a bit early on the red flag when it comes to qualifying, which is probably a good thing in the grand scheme of things. Rather too early than too late, I always say. Both Alpines went off at the end of Q1. Gasly went down the turn 4 escape road. Colapinto went full beans going into the corner, lost the rear and slammed into the outside wall. And that was at the end of the session. Ollie Bearman crabbed and hit the outside of turn 2 in Q2.
Whoa, Oliver!
Oliver, no! Charles Leclerc opened up Q3 by hitting turn 15 of poor judgment on the downhill run at the end of Sector 2. He put it into the outside wall when he couldn't get his brake stop properly. And Oscar Piastri, who binned it on the outside of turn 3 with about 4 minutes to go. And that was his second crash of the weekend because he hit the wall in practice too. We'll get to more of Piastri's horrible, awful, no good weekend later. But you watched this on highlight form after being done with the Brickyard, RJ. What did you make of that? Watching that for the first time properly.
Is Oscar okay? And I know we're going to jump the lead a bit because, spoilers,
he's fine.
His race lasted a lap. His race did not even last a lap. He jumped the start, his anti-stall kicked in, he dropped to the very back, and then he crashed 5 corners into it. I mean, this is the kind of weekend that everybody expects Lando Norris to have when the chips are down, the pressure is highest, and the stakes are raised, etc. But what the hell happened to Oscar this weekend, dog?
I wish I could tell you. It's weird, and I think you've hit onto something here in the sense of, I think the audience and the fan bases are treating both McLaren drivers differently. I.e., I've still heard Lando criticised more for a poor final qualifying run because he was out first on a slippery track with a bit of rain in the air to set his qualifying run, and he ended up qualifying in 7th. More than Oscar Piastri for putting it in the wall in qualifying and then putting it in the wall 30 seconds into a race. I don't think it's a fair fight at this point. I think you're spot on. We now expect Lando to bottle and make mistakes, and because Oscar's been established as the cool and calm one that's under pressure, we don't expect him to make these mistakes. But he's just had a horror show weekend, his worst in Formula 1 by a country mile. He stuffed 3 cars and broke a tub. That's a disaster.
You know what's now telling me? It seems like, the general consensus is, maybe neither of these McLaren drivers deserve it. I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I'm not that much of a McLaren slander by any means, but golly, that is crazy that one bad weekend from Oscar will do that. But he's still got a healthy points margin because, and we'll talk about in a bit, Lando Norris, unfortunately, doesn't get to take much advantage of it all. Dre, what'd you make of this one in real time?
It was mental. Like, we had a friend of ours, Taylor, in our Discord server joke that didn't we have a 2-hour qualifying session earlier this year? And I can't remember what it was, and I don't think we did. And it ended up being a hell of a commentator's curse because, as we said, this was a 1-hour, 58-minute qualifying session, the longest I can ever remember. I believe it was a new record for a qualifying session in terms of time taken to finish it. We had a new record for 6 red flags. It beats the record. We had 5 at Imola in 2022. We had 5 at Brazil last season, when that was another crash fest. But that was with torrential rain. This was just a bit of rain and just generally sloppy driving. And yeah, it was neat. Like, that was longer than any race we've had so far this season. In fact, I did the numbers. The longest F1 race since Japan 2022 that went 3 hours and hit the 3-hour event time limit.
I just feel sorry for all the younger fans and their short attention spans. All they do is just spend all day on TikTok.com/motorsport101, browsing through all their reels and such. I think it's a good idea that we just shorten qualifying down to like 1 15-minute session.
Yeah, I think it clearly went way too long. Fans were tuning out after 20 minutes. They could barely get through Q1, the most chaotic part of the weekend. We've got to shorten the product. That's how we know people will stick around and watch. That's.
Hey, hold on. I've got this press release from ESPN, this small company that said that Azerbaijan Grand Prix drew the largest audience ever for the event on U.S. television, averaging 1.1 million viewers and pretty much breaking even with NASCAR.
Jesus. It's funny how ESPN are a bit ummy and ahry about wanting to renew their TV rights for next year when they're putting in record numbers week on week.
Because they probably feel like, Just wait. They're going to get overbid so much and they can't find anybody and they're going to fall right back into our laps.
Yeah, it doesn't help that F1's asking for like 3 times the price that they were on the last renewal. I don't think a 1 million viewer product is worth 180 million quid a year, personally. But let's see if Apple's prepared to pay it. The way that's going. But
I mean, Christ, have you seen how much NBC and Fox are paying for 1.1 million views for NASCAR this playoffs?
I don't want to know. It's probably scary.
Anyway, enough of our NASCAR podcast. I mentioned it. Oscar Piastri had the worst 30 seconds of his F1 career, as Dre writes it. He stalled. He jumped the start. Then he stalled. He dropped to the back, crashed out of turn 5. At the front, Max Verstappen completely dominated. He got a Grand Slam on the board. 15-second margin victory ahead of George Russell in second and Carlos Sainz in third, holding off Kimi Antonelli to take Sainz's first podium for Williams and the team's first since Belgium 2021. And this time, it was in a race that actually counted. Further back, Lando Norris could only manage 7th as he got stuck behind Yuki Tsunoda, who had his best drive at a Red Bull for he's 6, but he was in podium contention. And Liam Lawson's career high in 5th. Couple things here. Max Verstappen dominated. We mentioned it. 7 races to go. 69-point margin. I mean, definitely the Red Bull's getting quicker. It seems like it, at least.
He couldn't, could he? I mean, let's put it to you this way. Andrea Stella, before the race, McLaren team principal, was asked, do you see Max Verstappen as a threat for the championship? This was before the race started. And you can do the math. Like, Piastri was 94 points in front of Verstappen going into this race with 8 to go. And Andrea unequivocally said yes. Yeah, he's Max Verstappen. Like, we know he's a threat. And this is with a team that had won 12 out of 16 coming into this race weekend, had a 94-point gap, and was on the brink of, until practice, was on the brink of the earliest Constructors' Championship win in Formula One history. They didn't wrap it up this weekend for obvious. They could have, if they had a 1-2 finish, they would have wrapped it up. But they didn't for obvious reasons.
7:20 finish would have done it. No, not really.
No, not quite. But it says a lot that even after that race was over, I had a lot of people mention me on Blue Sky saying Max could pull this off, right? And again, first and foremost, it goes to show you the pretty much universal acceptance that Verstappen is the best driver in the world now. There is no argument left from anybody. And the more people are saying, well, he can do it because he's Max, that is a testament to how respected he is with his ability now, that people are like, he's got a shot, even though he's 70 points back. He's like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Protagonist. He's Jaden Yuki with no cards in his hand, 100 life points left, and he's got 2 face-down cards on the other side of the field. You know he's going to win, but the intriguing thing is, how does he do it? And that's what Verstappen feels like right now. Now, me personally, I'm in the same camp as Mr. Cameron Buckley, who sadly can't be here this week, but he made a note in our script to say, ask me after Singapore. And I think that's ultimately where this will falter, because there is still, in my opinion, 3 very high downforce tracks between now and the end of the year. Singapore, Qatar, Mexico. Those are the ones that leap off the page to me as tracks I think McLaren will ultimately dominate, and I don't think any of this will matter.
Even when Red Bull was really good, they were not as good at Singapore.
And Singapore's been a struggle for them for the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. And that's overlapping a time when Red Bull was like undisputedly best team in the paddock, bar none. That was back when we thought Max Verstappen is just a product of the car, not the driver. Of course, we know times have changed.
That was the one race Red Bull didn't win in 2023, arguably the greatest team season that a Formula One team has ever had, arguably. That was the one round they didn't win. So they've struggled here for some time. It's a high downforce track. And if you look last year, Lando Norris whooped the field's arse in Singapore. Like, Max wasn't in the same postcode as him. Don't get me wrong, Lando nearly found ways to blow that one a couple of times in that Grand Prix.
I was going to say, Lando beat everybody's butt, and yet nobody was impressed.
No, it was because Max was there casually in second, and Lando nearly threw it away despite having a 20-second lead. It wasn't the most impressive Lando drive in the world, but he got the job done. And the thing is that what's made Max so good and the ability to win both of these races back to back was the new wing, the Monza setup wing, combining with the new floor. It's done well, but it's for high speed tracks. Like Baku and Monza are very similar in terms of what you need characteristic wise. You need high top speed. You're not so reliant on downforce or mechanical grip. It's a lot of high speed. It's a lot of low speed corners. You're not reliant on downforce as much. When it's a high downforce track like Singapore, which we're coming up to now, that's where it's going to be a lot more interesting. If Red Bull can get it cooking around Singapore and give McLaren something to think about, maybe, just maybe. I need to point out, it is still out of Max's hands. He needs help.
You pointed this out. Like, if Oscar just follows him home every race, that's good enough for Oscar.
Yeah, if Oscar follows Max home for the rest of the season, i.e. 7 Grand Prix and 3 sprints, we still have 3 sprints to go for this season as well, Max is 17 points off. The thing is that the blessing for Max in this scenario, given he's got to chase this down, is that McLaren will almost certainly take more points out of each other between now and the end of the year, because I don't think either McLaren driver has got it in them to completely dominate the other the way they're set up right now. I think they're very evenly matched. And one weekend to the next, Norris could be the lead McLaren. It could be Piastri the next weekend. That will actually help Max. It'll take points out of each other, and that could open the door for more opportunities, especially given at some point McLaren's got to drop this pretentious bullshit about being as fair, because now Norris is back within a round again. He's 25 back from Piastri with 7 to go. Plenty of time for Norris to turn this around still. So, as McLaren play it down the stretch, if Max is on the outside breathing in the distance saying, hey, I'm still here, by the way, he can't put me away yet.
But what does it say, though? That, like, Lando Norris, I feel like this was a missed opportunity. And I'm not piles on Lando guy. I'm actually more positive about Lando Norris than most of the people I watch Formula One with and interact about Formula One with. But, I mean, 7th place out of this whole deal? Really? Dog, first of all, getting stuck in the DRS train, no bueno.
No.
Even if you're in a McLaren, I think that's safe to say.
And McLaren like their high downforce setup. That's what's won them the majority of the races so far this season. So naturally, they're going to struggle a little bit more at a track like Baku, where you need the top speed. And you were caught in a train with the Racing Bulls, and they had very quick cars in a straight line all weekend. Like, it took Antonelli a good entire stint to get past Liam Lawson on the road before he finally got past him. So the Racing Bull was a very hard car to pass. And as we found out...
So was the other Red Bull, as it turns out. Man, imagine Lawson and Tsunoda on the same Racing Bulls team. We used to have this.
Like, literally this season. Funny how that turns out. And was as well.
Places and everything. They made a whole deal about it on the broadcast.
We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, like, we didn't know at the time until after the race that Yuki was basically playing blocker to help Max in the title race by trying to keep Norris from overtaking him. When Yuki admitted he could have pushed harder to pass Lawson, but he elected not to for the good of the team. And yeah, Norris is adamant, and he's not normally this confident. He'd be the first person to admit when he's made a mistake. That's the sort of person that Lando is. He was defiant all weekend that there wasn't missed opportunities. I think he's partly right. I think the qualifying run, it's plausible. He was the guinea pig. He was going around that track first and had to gauge how much grip there was in real time, corner to corner. That's always a very difficult thing to do when you're trying to go all out to qualify. You're going to have to make compromises. So to a degree, I get it. And in the race, there is no worse place to be in Formula One than the third man in a DRS train. that is a no hope situation unless the guy in front of you makes a mistake, and he didn't. So he takes 6 points out of Piastri for finishing 7th. That's about the same as if it was a 1-2 anyway, where the gap is normally 7. So it feels, I guess, a little bit like a missed opportunity for Lando. The practice time suggested that the McLaren was still really quick on race sim, and I thought they might be a bit stronger in the race. Turns out they weren't, really. I do wonder how much of that was also Norris having to run 3/4 of the race on the medium tyre. We went up, we went up a compound. We went C456 this year. First time I've ever done that in Baku. And the medium goes 3/4 distance. Fantastic.
Dog. Well, people say, we need the Bridgestone tires back. We need durable tires that you can push on all race and not have to hold back. I heard this for years and years and years, so you got what you wanted. You happy now? Although I do wonder, where does Lando Norris shake out if he's not dropped in that RB train due to a slow pit stop?
I see. The thing of the pit stop is because obviously he had a wheel gun not work properly on his final pit stop again. I think it was a 4.1 second stop. So you could say he probably lost somewhere between 1.5 and 2 seconds. I don't think he beats the train either way, because the thing about Baku is that when you come out of the pits, you're in trouble because you've immediately got a very slow left-hander on cold tyres, and like the car behind you, if they're hot, they're going to make up a good second on that corner alone, and then they're going to have DRS momentum taking them all the way through towards turn 3. So I don't think it actually mattered in the end that Norris had a slow stop. I think he would have been in the same scenario anyway. But, again, this is an audience where McLaren fans are very quick and very cynical to point out anything that isn't total status quo and equilibrium, because it's happy fun times at McLaren, and during happy fun times, all's fair in love and war and in racing. We're going to kill them with kindness, RJ O'Connell. That's what we do here.
That's right. That's what we do in McLaren. We race the right way, we race fair, and we race respectfully, and everything is just as good as it can be.
It's all fine and dandy. There'll be no drama to speak of between now and December. No. We shall see.
If things go to blows, man, that's going to get really messy. Dre, I thought Williams had ditched the whole high-speed track specialist routine, because how else did Carlos Sainz end up on the podium in a Grand Prix in Azerbaijan in big 2025? Like, we know this is multiple Grand Prix winner Carlos Sainz, and we know was performing so good at times last year, you make Ferrari question why you let go of him and brought in Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz.
I wish I could give you a straight answer to that. It's because, again, if you're Williams and you made the joke about, they love a good high-speed track, you're circling the Monza Baku doubleheader on the calendar with a big red highlighter pen.
Yeah.
And
it's just one of those tropes, like Oscar Piastri can't save tires, and what are the other? Ferrari's a shambles. We'll get to that shortly.
Very much so. No, that's the thing about it. There was no shenanigans involved. Carlos Sainz was just genuinely that quick. Like, when he came, like he had the best of conditions in qualifying, definitely, but it wasn't a fluke that he was up there. He was genuinely fast. It's a crying shame for Alex Albon, because I think there was a golden opportunity for him to make Q3, and Williams could have easily had 2 cars in the top 6, comfortably. They were very, very fast. And Sainz was genuinely quick. He was on an alternate strategy compared to Max. Max started on the hard tyre and did about 80% of the race on that hard tyre. Sainz started on the medium. Verstappen's logic basically said, well, we're not going to get caught short if there's a safety car and we can make a switch to a more aggressive tyre compound. So they were going to take the pain early, run the hard, and try and hold off Sainz on the medium tyre, and he was able to do that. Sainz ran the medium, had a more conventional medium-hard strategy, but he was running Russell's pace. It was only a Russell undercut that got him out in front. And once Russell was in clean air, he was a little bit quicker. But there really is very little shenanigans in that Williams. Sainz was just genuinely that fast. And when Antonetti was there at the end of the race, he couldn't get close enough to even think about a passing move. And Mercedes has been stronger than Williams as customers all year. And no, there's no real foul play or anything like that. Sainz was just genuinely that quick. He deserved it.
To the point about being Mercedes' top customer, yeah, it's like other than McLaren, it's not even close between Williams and Aston Martin at this stage. That just needs to be pointed out. You know, it's funny that Alpine is just out here tweeting like, yeah, our car's shit and it's not going to be better till next year when we get a Mercedes engine. Now watch as like the 2026 Mercedes power unit is kind of a lemon, which I'm not expecting. Although, man, that does make me think, if Alex Albon just had a good weekend this weekend, could you imagine what the windfall would be for Williams?
That could have been a 30-point weekend for them or something along those lines.
What are you doing topping Franco Colapinto in a battle in the teens?
Albon had a horrible weekend. Crashed in qualifying in Q1 and a really silly mistake as well. I mean, who crashes on the inside of turn 1? Who? And you know, he was out in Q1 and then he picks up a 10-second time penalty trying to dive bomb Colapinto at turn 5, which is not a passing opportunity. It's never been a passing opportunity. And he just wipes Colapinto out and puts him in the wall. It was silly, completely unnecessary, and it's a shame because Albon had a quick car and he just wasn't with it this weekend, and Sainz was as locked in as I've seen him in a Williams since he got there. And I need to point out, Albon's been whooping that arse compared to Carlos pretty much for most of the season. And of course, it's Carlos that gets the big headline finish, even though Albon's had a bunch of top 5s this year. But yeah, first Williams podium in over 4 years.
It's recent Williams heritage. I mean, wasn't it in 2019 when George Russell was getting all the results week in and week out, except in Germany when Robert Kubica got the points that Williams would get all year?
Yeah, sometimes it works out that way. Sometimes the other guy has the big day and gets there. It was a lot like Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg when they were teammates at Force India and Racing Point. Hulkenberg was the consistent one. Perez would be the one with the Baku podium. And of course, he gets all the headlines. It's not a fair fight, but that's just how it goes sometimes in Formula One. It is what it is.
If is a long word in F1. In fact, if is F1 spelled backwards.
That's the 9th different podium sitter we've had in Formula One this season, and Lewis Hamilton is not one of them.
What are you talking about? He was on the top step of a podium earlier this year in Shanghai.
Sprints do not count.
And by the way,
and it doesn't suddenly start counting because Hamilton won a sprint race earlier this year.
Hey, by the way, I'm going to read this note off the sheet verbatim. Did Ferrari really botch a goddamn position swap? Sorry. Did Ferrari really botch a goddamn position swap?
They did. You weren't here for it, but oh boy. Basically, at the end of the race, Leclerc came in first for his one and only stop of the day. He was on the hard compound to finish. Hamilton finished on the medium compound tyre after being locked out in Q2 on Saturday. That was a disappointment in of itself for Lewis. He was saying on Friday, yeah, we really think the progress is coming along nicely because he was fastest in FP1, and everyone was like, ooh, Hamilton could be in play again, and then he gets knocked out in Q2 in qualifying. I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sake, Lewis, come on, man. But he finished the race on the stronger medium tyre, so Leclerc got out of Hamilton's way to let Hamilton have a go at the DRS train of Lawson, Tsunoda, Norris, etc. Hamilton couldn't do anything with that, with the tyre delta advantage. So at the end of the race, they're going to swap them back around again. But they tell Lewis too late on the radio, and Hamilton... I think Hamilton genuinely forgot where the finish line was. Because the finish line is quite far down at Baku. It's like 80% of the way down the straight. And I think by the time he slows down, he's already past the start-finish line. And Hamilton had to apologise to Leclerc after the race. And Charles was kind of like no hard feelings, but I do remember him distinctively saying that if we're fighting for, quote, sexier positions, hopefully we work better with it in the future, because they were talking about swapping 8th and 9th. I mean...
Yeah, when it was Schumacher and Barrichello trying to arrange a dead heat in 2002 at the Brickyard, that was for first. That was for a win. And I just assumed at the time that Barrichello edged ahead as a make good for Austria that year.
Yeah, Michael eased off to let Barrichello get it, because that was a make good for Austria, basically. But yeah, like, this was not that. This was team incompetence and Lewis Hamilton losing track of the finish line in a swap-seas for 8th place.
Yeah, you got McLaren, that's Team Papaya. We got Ferrari, that's Team Incompetence.
What is it with Ferrari and finding new and creative ways to disappoint? Like, they were genuinely quick in practice, and then, again, you know what it is? Lewis Hamilton is the new Maverick Vinales. The guy that always leads at the end of practice, but then never actually does anything with it by the time the weekend's over. And it's immensely frustrating, and this keeps happening, and it sucks.
It feels like we didn't even dwell on Charles Leclerc crashing qualifying, because, like, yeah, he's had this happen many times before. We're moving on. We're moving on, pal.
Yeah, just another weekend of Ferrari doing next to nothing on a track that people thought they would go quite well around. This is just...
And it wasn't even like they turned up the engines before everyone else like they did at Monza.
No.
At least I don't think.
I don't think so either. Just poor. Just arguably 5th best team over the weekend. Just... Where both Red Bulls are in front of you. Like, that's... no disrespect, RJ. That's just not a good weekend.
This is a good time to talk about the Yuki Tsunoda and Isaac Hadjar and Arvid Lindblad situation. Okay, let's start with Yuki first, because as you mentioned, he got 6th, and he admitted he was blocking for Verstappen late in the race to try and hold off Lando Norris. Do you think it would have been better for his stocks? Because the leading rumor is Arvid Lindblad's going up to RB, Isaac Hadjar's going up to Red Bull, big team, and whoever races alongside Lindblad is just a shootout between Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. Do you think it would have been more beneficial for Yuki to just go hell-bent for leather and not focus on blocking Lando? Or do you think he did enough by making his Red Bull as wide as he possibly could?
It never hurts to be a team player. It always helps your stock. I mean, if you look at Sergio Perez when he was at Red Bull, him blocking Lewis Hamilton in Abu Dhabi 2021 apparently earned him a huge amount of goodwill at Red Bull after that, because it was 7 or 8 priceless seconds to try and get Max back in play during that first round of pit stops. It was fantastic driving, and Perez was beloved in that Red Bull camp for a good while.
And a defense.
Yeah, he got a very long leash as a result of that blocking in Abu Dhabi from what people said from within the team. So I don't think it hurts that Yuki's a team player, and I like the fact that he's got the ambition to try and think, yeah, we still think Max has a shot at the title. Let's give him every benefit we can. Never hurts to be in that position. I mean, if Eric Van Haren is already reporting that Tsunoda's gone at the end of the year for Hadjar, that's deeply unfortunate. To a degree, I get it.
It was a problem because Isaac Hadjar got that podium. He got that podium straight up, no shenanigans, the other day, and it was just like, man, this is going to make this whole thing very awkward, especially now that Liam Lawson is driving like the driver with the pedigree you expect of Liam Lawson before he came into F1.
Yeah,
it's like he's figured it out.
That's the problem. It's Yuki might have found something here in this Red Bull over the summer break, but the problem is it might already be too late. And Hadjar getting that first podium in Zandvoort probably didn't help either. If you're the sort of person that is a cynic on Yuki Tsunoda, you would have pointed out that he struggled for his first 2 years against Pierre Gasly in that team. He was just starting to break out on his own, but the problem was he had Nick de Vries in there, then the return of Daniel Ricciardo, and then a new Lawson that came in and was pretty much on his level straight away. It's just, if you're a Yuki hater, you can make a pretty compelling argument that he's just not that great. And I'm not that person. I think Yuki was the best of the Racing Bulls drivers last year. I think he was better than Lawson and better than Ricciardo, and I think he deserved the opportunity. You got to remember, Yuki was not given a full off-season with Red Bull proper. He was chucked in there after 2 weekends and having to learn a totally brand new car on the fly again. He was not given the best possible chance to succeed. And Red Bull are treating their racing drivers like fucking doomsday. Hey, let's scoop up the rest of this experiment and we'll fire a new one out there, and maybe this one will survive the planet that's designed to kill him. And
I've been very impressed with Isaac Hadjar, but what makes us think he's going to be the one to fix it?
Better drivers with stronger resumes than him have been put in that same scenario and have ultimately failed. I'm not sure why people are so convinced that Isaac Hadjar is going to be the one to break the cycle. He's a talented man, and he's had a very good rookie season. Yeah. He deserves the plaudits, and I'm not totally against him getting this opportunity. But I can't help but think there is a much stronger chance you're another notch on Red Bull's bedpost when it comes to drivers they've put in that situation and failed. They've not had a great number two consistently in there since Daniel Ricciardo in 2018.
That's true. I get that. I hate to play devil's advocate against one of my favorite drivers on the grid, but hear me out. We haven't seen this play out in a full season in Laurent Mecky's Red Bull.
It's a good point.
Could things be different? Could things be different now that whoever steps into that seat is not beholden to all the infighting between the toxic warring factions of Christian Horner and Helmut Marko? I know there's just one toxic faction that rules the roost now. Could things be different under Mecky's?
They could be. And Laurent Mecky's is one of the few people that I've seen continuously bat for Yuki, besides maybe Max. Max, to be fair, always bats for his teammates. He always has. Lauren has always batted for the Yuki. He always has. I've seen that from day one. He's always talked about how good Yuki is in his setups. That might be worth some pull. I don't know if that's enough to outrank what Helmut Marko thinks. And with Horner now gone, and now really gone, as we found out earlier this week that he took a $100 million buyout to fuck off, basically, we now know that is anyone going to stand in Helmut Marko's way when it comes to driver decisions now, given he's still Red Bull's leader of driver development, and he's on big Red Bull payroll, not Red Bull Racing payroll? I don't know. My gut instinct says no, because at the end of the day, say what you will about Christian Horner, there was always a bit of a tug of war between him and Helmut Marko in that team, and he had enough clout to outrank Helmut on occasion and vice versa. There was a much more of an equal power struggle there, for better or for worse. I'm not sure if Lawrence going to have that same clout, given he's just walked into this new role as CEO.
Oh, no, absolutely not. You kidding me? Marco is going to have to depart this mortal coil before something like that happens. And the possibility that, as Jason points out, it doesn't help that Red Bull will no longer be affiliated with Honda. Remember, Yuki Tsunoda has been... He was a Honda Racing School Formula driver back in 2014. Incredibly, he was only the 4th-ranked graduate in his class that year, oddly enough. But Honda has even said, on the record, Koji Watanabe has even said, if Yuki Tsunoda wants to stick around in Formula One, he has to just not be a Honda driver for the rest of that time. Because there may be a time when we're not around.
Well, if Yuki does get given the boot at Red Bull, he's better than both Franco Colapinto or Paul Aaron if Alpine are rumoured to be potentially moving on from Franco at the end of the year.
And plus he already gets on well with Pierre Gasly.
Yeah, Yuki would be a better option than either Colapinto or Aaron for next year either way, so why not? Gasly pretty much needed Alpine to help save him in that scenario, and at that point in his career when he left the artists known as AlphaTauri, and it ended up being a great fit. That's now his team, and Colapinto has struggled. There's no getting around that, and allegedly the money that's supposed to be there from his Argentine backers is not dropping. So if you're not there because of paying reasons, his performances, I don't think Colapinto's been as bad as some like to think that he is, but it would never be like Flavio Briatore to rip up a contract and shove somebody out the door if he didn't like his results now, would it?
No, you kidding me? Never. That's just not his sort of thing, man. Yeah. I also... Okay. Now, I know I was big on the whole, Paul Aaron is actually better than people perceive him as.
I agree.
Do I want him in that Alpine Mercedes seat right away in 2026? I don't know, especially if Yuki's on the table. I don't know.
If Yuki is on the table, he's the best driver left that's available. By default.
Remember that Australian guy you had at the start of the year that you've still allegedly got in your books?
Mick's son? No? Beats me, man.
He's going to McLaren's hypercar program or Cadillac's, whatever the story is now. Yeah, dog. I would have loved to see Yuki Tsunoda get that podium because I feel like I am watching the end of a Formula One career that should have been at least one of them deals. Probably should have at least had a win, right? But I don't think that's going to happen now. We'll see what happens the last few races. Also, Arvid Lindblad getting the call up.
That seems a year too soon.
Yeah, but I always felt like he was going to be a one-and-done F2 driver no matter what. Because when you have that much clout and that much hype behind you, when you're in Formula 3 still, it's like Kimi Antonelli. It felt like his promotion to F1 was going to be inevitable at some point. The only question is, which Red Bull-owned entity was it going to be at?
Given that a lot of people get very fucking snobby about Formula 2 drivers and their credentials about getting ready to F1, and that now you've got to be essentially a two-and-done at worst level driver. And I've seen people turn their nose up at Leo Fornaroli, despite potentially being the 5th member of the F3, F2 double championship club back-to-back, which we've not seen since last year with Gabriel Bortoleto.
Yeah. Before that, we hadn't seen that since Oscar Piastri, who didn't get an immediate seat and had to go through a very public contract breakup with Alpine to get his way onto the grid. And we all know what happened after that.
The point
Last
is,
week
everyone
notwithstanding.
that's done the F3, F2 double has turned out to either be good to great. And Bortoletto, the jury's still out, but I think he's had a very solid rookie season in Formula One this year. Piastri could win a world championship. He's odds-on favourite to win a world championship right now. George Russell is one of the best drivers in Formula One, period. And Charles Leclerc, again, one of the 2 or 3 best drivers in Formula One right now. If you do the double, generally speaking, you're probably very good. And if Fornaroli can't get a knock on the door for an F1 seat, I don't know why people are so keen to see Lindblad get it instead. I would like to see another year of Lindblad in F2 because I think he needs more seasoning. But I agree with you, RJ. I think a lot of people had this kid penciled in for. I mean, Red Bull were asking to bend the super license rules specifically for him. People thought it was Antonelli and Mercedes. It was actually Red Bull trying to get 17-year-old Arvid Lindblad a super license, and they made the exception rule for him. It's the Lindblad rule, essentially. You can get one at 17 if you're exceptional enough, and I'd like to see another year of him, personally, but if Red Bull thinks he's ready, might as well do a doomsday and fire him out on the deep end and see if he floats.
I think he could, potentially. I know we had a rough weekend recently. A very rough weekend recently in Monza, but
He was dreadful.
I think the talent is there, but I also feel like, what's Leonardo Fornaroli's future looking like if he wins the double? What, is he going to have to settle for a reserve driver role? What, is he going to have to fight for scraps to be one of the 37 people that McLaren's interested to sign for their hypercar program?
I hate that it could be Indy next. There's already a lot of talk that Alex Dunn's heading over there next year.
Dog, the double road to Indy next. What are we doing, man? I know that F2 results don't matter, but for something like this, it really should.
It should, and you got to remember, Indy Next will have 24 cars on the grid next year.
Why doesn't anybody talk about how fucky Formula Regional Europe is specifically? I don't know. That's a whole debate for another thing. Finally, Baku got extended to 2030, putting aside tensions in the area, to just put it very, very gently. Yay or nay as a racetrack, Baku City Circuit?
It's like Hungary. It shouldn't work, but it somehow does. This was a dull one by Baku standards. We got the chaos on Saturday rather than Sunday for once. But, F1... You can tell how F1 feels about you by the length of the extension that it will give you. Baku only got 5 years. Given that some teams on the calendar, or some tracks on the calendar, have had 15 years, given, like Miami and Bahrain and other places, I don't think it's that certain. I don't think the tensions and the conflict of Armenia bothers Formula One or anybody else one bit, unfortunately. I really do think we should be talking about Azerbaijan in the same way we talk about Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Bahrain, quite frankly, for subpar human rights, but F1 fans are extremely fickle about these things. That's never going to happen. So that's unfortunate, but here we are. Look, Baku is an entertaining spectacle. It's got a 50-50 shot of chaos. That's good enough to keep it around on the calendar. They like having F1 street tracks, and Baku is a good spectacle round, so I'm not surprised it got an extension.
Either way, Formula One's back on October 5th for the Singapore Grand Prix, which will have a sprint next year for God knows what reason. In the middle of the afternoon.
Whose decision was that?
Is it just like a feeling of just like, well, we got to have sprints at new places somehow?
Old layout, by the way, Raptor, but yes, Singapore is on the sprint calendar for 2026. It's back on the F1 calendar next weekend. Singapore is Singapore. It's another one of those, because you get a guaranteed safety car pretty much every year, you're bound to get some shenanigans in there somewhere. That's a part of the fun. We'll see how that goes. In the meantime, we'll be back next week. We'll have MotoGP and the Japanese Grand Prix this weekend from Twin Wing Motegi. A very good chance that Marc Marquez wraps up his ninth World Championship this weekend. All he has to do is outscore Alex Marquez by 3 points to seal the deal and wrap it up. It could also be his 100th Grand Prix win as well on the weekend, depending on how that plays out.
What number is it? I don't know what
it would be 74 for
is.
Premier Class, depends on who you ask. We'll be talking a lot about that next week. Now we know more details about the Legends win.
Buddy, we've got a lot to say about that. And also, he gets to do it right in front of his Honda faithful.
Oh. Yeah, they'll be very happy for him and all extremely jealous. Or both. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. That and our IndyCar season review will be next week here on Motorsport 101. But until then, I've been Dre Harrison. He's been RJ O'Connell. Thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll catch you guys next week. Sayonara.
Later, y'all.